I am joined today by a man who needs no introduction for any of you that have followed Alabama football for any period of time, but I'm going to give him a short one anyways. I'm joined by Mr. Bobby Humphrey, former running back from the University of Alabama, played in the NFL for a few seasons, a longtime Alabama guy from the Birmingham area. The son or the father of NFL legend currently, Marlon Humphrey, that's at the Baltimore Ravens. How you doing today, Bobby?
I am doing fine, Owens, and thanks for that nice intro, man. Yeah, I'm the father of Marlon, and it's hard to believe, man. He's going into his ninth season. I still can remember back when he was catching the onside kick in the Clemson game when we won that one out of Arizona. Boy, time sure does fly. But yes, happy to be on with you today, my man.
Absolutely. And that one makes me feel old too, because I actually was in college at the same time Marlon was. I started in 2015. I know he was in 2014, but yeah, so that one makes me feel old when I hear how long he's been in the NFL as well as some of the other guys on there. I had classes with some of the guys, and we'll talk about the movie as we kind of continue on the interview, which is part of the reason why you're on today. But yeah, those things make me feel old. Gotta love that.
So you mean to tell me you were part of a national championship team your freshman year?
Try
Get
this.
out of here, right
No,
out the gate.
try this one. The stat that I always give everybody, and it blows a lot of people's minds, is in my time at Alabama, we had 2 national titles and 4 losses. Had Tony Brown been able to stop Hunter Renfrow at the goal line, we would have had 3 titles and 3 losses in my 4 years in college. But that play is the thing that separated the 3-3 versus 2-4.
You know, when you think about that, I was looking at a stat, and I went back, because of the movie. I started doing some really, really in-depth research, which some people probably already know. But I was just amazed about the win and the loss column of Coach Saban during his time there. I think and you can help me out. You can probably look this up, but I think he had only 27 losses in his entire career at Alabama. I think 123 or 100 and I think 123 wins, only 27 losses in
Yeah,
the time he was. Is that about close to right?
yeah, I'm pulling it right now. His time at Alabama, I show. So he had 29 losses and 201 wins.
Oh, so wow, I'm off quite a bit.
Yeah, so 201 wins and 29 losses. The crazy thing that when you think about, even with the success that Saban had, and the thing that when you think about what I'm talking about, that my time in school, those national titles, not a single one of those titles did we have an undefeated season. And that's something that a lot of people, when you think about the success of Saban, yes, he did have a ton of success, of course, but like all those teams faced adversity in some way or another, right? The 2015 team that won the title lost to Ole Miss my freshman year up in the upper deck when, we had 5 interceptions between the variety of quarterbacks, and then Bo Wallace's tip drill off the helmet, and just that was a crazy game.
It was crazy.
That was an absolute. Me and my dad were sitting in the upper deck, like that was a crazy game. But like, all of his wins and all of the success that he has, none of it was without adversity, right? Even the 2009 year that was his, most known as, this was his undefeated season prior to 2020. You had to have the Rocky block, to be able to get there. Mount
That's
Cody
right.
blocks two field goals, and how often do you have 2 field goals blocked in a game? Lane Kiffin would like that one back, but
Yeah.
that's just one of those things that when you think about the success of some of these coaches, and like I said, we'll talk about Bear Bryant, we'll talk about Nick Saban, but like what they were able to do, even building off of the failures, like the failures to lead to the success, is what I also like to see, because so many teams unravel when they have a single issue. Or, like that Ole Miss game we talked about with Bo Wallace, we had 5 turnovers in that game. Alabama lost by 6 points. A normal game where somebody has 5 turnovers, you get blown out.
Right, that's right.
I mean, the fact that
And,
you just kept fighting and fighting and
yeah, he
fighting.
kept on. Yeah, and that year we won. And that year was the year we won the national championship. I'm thinking, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That was the Clemson win.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was thinking about the other loss that was kind of crazy was the kick six that I don't think it's ever happened before in history and has never happened after that. That's the first time that anybody has ever. I remember Saban interviewing saying, and it didn't hit me until he said it, his post game interview. He said he has never lost a game like that. It was kind of like one of those things that he had never experienced. Neither has anybody else.
It was kind of a thought where he was like, worst case scenario, he misses it. If they catch it, we tackle him and we move on with our day, right? Or normally nobody ever even gets sent back there, so you just miss the field goal and you just go on to overtime. You know, he wasn't even considering somebody sending a player back. Like that really changed college football because now any long kick they send somebody back there.
Right back. That's right. It changed college football. That's right. And how to defend that play and what the results of it could be. And you're absolutely correct. And that's something I had never seen before. And it's amazing how all those things happen, you know, and he still managed to put the numbers up that he put up and to be successful. Now, another stat that I was looking up is how many national championships he actually played in, and how many he won. And I think, if my math correct, I want to say he was 50%.
Yeah, at Bama he was. Well, so at Bama he was 6-3, and then, well, I guess he won one at LSU, but so I guess he was 7-3 at Alabama in national championships because he won the BCS in 2009, 11, and 12. He won the national championship in 15, 17, and 20, and then he lost it in 2021, 2016, and 2018. But that's the crazy thing where I just said that. We played in the national championship game my 4 years in college, all 4 years. We lost it 2 of the years in 2016 and 2018, but then in 2015 and 2017, we won it. So that's, again, one of those, like, you know, it's kind of unprecedented times where when I tell people of, like, the time that I was in college, and I was a sports PR major. So, you know, for those of you that may be unaware, and I'm sure you don't know this, like, I had class with Jalen Hurts. I had class with Damian Harris. I had class with a lot of these guys because a lot of these guys that may end up going to the NFL, they put them in communications and PR classes so that they're media trained for when they go do some of these things. So I would, you know, we would see these guys in classes, and it was just kind of surreal that the guy that just won a national title, you know, had, you know, law, you know, PR law at 9:00 the next morning.
Man, that had to be kind of cool right there now. Because Jalen Hurts, when he was on campus, man, he was like a stud star, man. I mean, it's unbelievable the stuff that he accomplished as a freshman. Well, that's his 2 years there as a starter.
Yeah, Jalen was somebody who I actually, for a while, and I know he's changed it at this point, but for a while I had his cell phone number because we had so many classes together because our schedules lined up that we would like send each other Quizlets back and forth of like, hey, this is what you need to study for the test. And he would have his advisors like print out the Quizlet and he would be like flipping through it when he came into class. And so like, for the longest time we had like did that just because, like I said, we had so many classes together. It was kind of a mindset of if you had a class in that communications college between 9 and 11, you couldn't do it in the afternoon because football practice was in the afternoon. But if you had a morning class, you probably had an athlete in your class because, again, they were media training these guys and getting them prepared for the NFL. And that's something that we'll talk about, right? Like the preparation of preparing these people as young men, not just as football players, is the success of Coach Brian, is the success of Nick Saban. It's not just what they did on the football field, it's what they were able to do outside of the football field. But before we get into that, I did have the question. I know I prefaced it, I told you a little bit about it, but for those of you, you know, that may not be aware, you know, I'm from Alabama. Bobby's also from Alabama. He's from the Birmingham area. He went to Glenn High School. And as a part of that, something that, you know, they did back at Glenn is back when Alabama used to play at Legion Field, the high school players would be up selling Cokes in the upper deck and doing all that. I want to know what kind of some of your, what was it like being a top flight recruit in the state of Alabama that was, you know, going to be going to the hometown school?
Well, that actually didn't come about until later in my high school career. Earlier in my football career, I was selling Cokes because I grew up right across the street from Legion Field in the housing projects, Illerton Village. So you can leave my back door, and be right there at Coach Bryant's statue that's still there today in front of Legion Field in less than three minutes. So that's how close I was to the stadium. So as a youngster, we grew up parking cars. And then as I got older, I was able to be able to sell coats in the upper deck. And I can remember, and that was more or less 7th and 8th grade. And I can remember selling coats. And this is a funny story here, is that I used to get requests all the time about ice. Everybody wanted to know if I had ice. Do you have any ice? Do you have any ice? So I took it upon myself to kind of get rid of the Coke and keep the ice. And I started making more for the ice than I did for the Coke. Now, as a youngster, I never knew what was so important about the ice, but I realized later on in life why people wanted ice up there in the upper deck. But then I dreamed of one day watching the game, because I would try to sell as much as I could and be able to watch the fourth quarter. So I was able to do that on several occasions, and I was able to watch the fourth quarter. And at that time, I really thought that as a youngster that I wanted to play, and I would get a shot to playing football down there at Legion Field. And then later on, that dream came true.
Absolutely. And, you were pretty successful doing that. And that's something that, obviously your legacy at Alabama, you held the running back title until we had a couple of Heisman Trophy winners come through and take it from you, unfortunately. But, it was just kind of a situation of, being the hometown Alabama kid that plays for the university. Something that it feels like to me is when you grow up in this state, the university means something a little bit more than just the college football team that people see on TV. Because when you don't have that NFL team, like, when you're born, it's either Alabama or it's Auburn, but it's more than that, right? Like to a degree, it's part of your identity. And so what was it like for you to be able to actually play for that program that, had that tradition that we're trying to talking about?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. It was about staying in state and not knowing what it would create for you later in life. But in hindsight, I can definitely say I made the right decision to stay in state rather than going out of state and playing for a traditional powerhouse like the University of Alabama. And people still know me to this day. People still recognize me. People still have that same love for Alabama football back then that they had for me, that they still have now. And it's just amazing to know that football and going to the University of Alabama and playing football goes beyond just the 4 years you're there. It goes far beyond. I mean, for crying out loud, I'm 58 years old. I'll be 59 this coming October. And there are people still calling and requesting for me to come and sign autographs. Now, I'm talking about this is removed. My records have been broken there, but people still remember the 87 game against Penn State. They still remember the LSU game in 87. They remember the 86 game. They remember the Tennessee game when we just went up there in 1986 and just plowed over them, rushed for over close to 400, total yards. I had about 200 of those myself. But, people still remember Bobby Humphrey running the football back in the mid-'80s. And it's 2025. I mean, so that just goes to show you the tradition, the culture, and the respect that people have for, not only the university, but the players that go there and play.
Yeah, and I can attest to that because when I told a couple of my family members that I was going to get the opportunity to have this interview, and they were like, "Oh, that's super cool." Exactly what you're talking about, right? Like there's this when you grow up in this state, and again, some people think that people only remember the national title teams. We just talked about all the success Alabama's had. Bobby didn't win any national titles, and that's not to speak poorly about their team.
No, it's not. Not at all.
Not at all. But that's just the pride that people have in this state for the team. right? Like it doesn't matter if you won a national title. It truly doesn't, right? Like the people care for the people that took care of their state, that like put their team on the map, that, you know, ran over Tennessee, right? Like they're going to celebrate that Tennessee win like they won the national title. They don't care that they didn't win the national title, right? Like, and so that's something that just means a little bit more to this state. And I'm sure that's something that you kind of pass down to Marlon. Obviously you want him to be able to make his decision, but you know, the thought process around like, hey, this is the pride that I had when I went, and this is why I made the decision I did, that inevitably is something that I'm sure he, understood when he ended up making a similar decision himself.
Absolutely. Other than Saban doing DB drills in my living room, Marlon made the decision. I mean, it was funny, man. I wish I could illustrate it, but we on a Zoom call. But when Saban did our home visit, man, it was like he got up and he started showing us DB drills with Marlon, and I was like, this is getting pretty serious here, you know. And when he told Marlon that he was going to be his coach and all this here, I'm thinking, crying out loud, this probably the best DB coach in the country. He might be the head coach, but he's also the best DB coach in the country. I mean, that's hard to turn down. And then you're going to Alabama, and once again, most of the people that went to his high school and was around the community was Alabama fans. So there was a little bit of pressure on him, but I think he knew where he wanted to go. And I think he would also say, if he was on this call today, he would say that he made the right choice because of the love and the passion that the fans have for Alabama football.
Yeah, 100%. And that is going to kind of lead me into, I know we want to talk a little bit about the movie. And when I think of two of the kind of instrumental father-son duos that played at the university, it's two of the people that kind of collabed for this movie. It's, you and Marlon, and then Simeon, Tim, and Jeremiah. Obviously Caleb as well. I think of Simeon and Tim. Obviously, they played a little bit more than Jeremiah. Jeremiah going more of the film route later on in his career. But y'all kind of come together to make this movie. What was kind of the driving factor to think that this was something that, obviously we've seen we'll talk more about the dates, but what was the driving factor behind thinking this movie needed to get made?
Well, I really don't know the answer to that because I don't know what fell into the mindset of Marlon and my daughter. But I think what initiated the drive was the fact that there needs to be a story told, and I don't think very many people around the world understand what that story would be like and unfold. You think about two different eras, and the film implicates that. And my daughter, Brianna, who's out in Hollywood, and Caleb, who is out in Hollywood, who kind of dropped it in her lap, and then they mentioned it to Marlon, and it was like, oh wow, the story of Alabama, man, that should be really good. Tradition, winning, culture, pride, all the things that the Alabama program is built on was something that really triggered it. And as they started to put it together, and it just came together like a masterpiece. And going to the premiere and seeing it for the first time, I was just unbelievable because, you know, Coach Bryant did something in a whole different era, and Coach Saban did it in a whole different era. Coach Bryant was dealing with, he came here to Alabama, and it was in the middle, in the heat of the civil rights movement, and he wanted to bring in black players, and there was some resistance there, and all that is depleted. I mean, it's shown in the movie and everything. And then Coach Saban comes and just picks it up. You had the championship. We don't want to leave out Stallings. He's in the movies there. He picked up one there in the middle, and then Coach Saban kind of picked it up on the tail end and kind of picked up where Coach Bryant left off in terms with consecutive, multiple, I shouldn't say consecutive, but multiple national championships, and just kept the tradition, pride. You think about Coach Bryant implemented the process and knew the process that he wanted, the players to live by. And Saban came in and just labeled it as the process, which And if you watch the film, both of them saying some of the similar things in their speech. It's kind of crazy, man. It's almost like they were designed and made and had created the right cultures to be winners. You know, Coach Brian talked about doing the little things. Well, guess what Coach Saban talked about? Doing the little things. And and knowing how you get the best out of this day. Coach Saban said the same thing. You know, you want to be better and get a little bit better every day. So it's and don't let me get Coach Stallings. He preached the same thing. He was one of Coach Brian's disciples. So, you know, it all came together. It was a really, really good concept, and them putting it all together, and the way they kind of mixed and matched it and brought the old and the young and everybody in between together and overlapped. It was just a great movie. It's a great film to see. So I encourage everybody to go out and see it on the 31st of July.
Yeah, and something you're talking about, right? When you're talking about the process, when you're talking about the things that breed success, right? Like that's a lot of what this movie is about, right? Like that's the whole nothing but a winner mentality. But it's also something that I think goes beyond sports, right? It goes into life. It goes into everything that you think about is, right? At the end of the day, what allows you to be successful is these pillars of things that you can take off the football field. Because when you look at the people that have had success, you know, if you're going to have success, it doesn't matter if it's on the football field. It doesn't matter if it's here. It doesn't matter if it's there, right? It matters that you implement, you know, if you get better every day. That doesn't have to be on the football field. Obviously, they're using it for the football field. You know, do your job the best you can do it. Yeah, that definitely applies if you're a cornerback, but sure, that also applies if you're an accountant, or that applies if you're, you know, anybody in life. So I think that's what you have to kind of take away when you're looking at some of these things is, you know, as much as this is a film about sports, yes, it absolutely is. It's about the success of a football program. It's also about how two men were able to lead other men into being successful in life.
Absolutely. That you put it in a nutshell because Coach Saban and Coach Brian, they push academics. They didn't make any excuses about it. They didn't allow any players to get away with missing class. Um, when I was there, study hall. I remember Coach Perkins. When I was there, it was mandatory that you go to breakfast. You used to have to sign in at breakfast, and if you didn't sign in, that sign-in sheet went to Coach Perkins' desk every morning. And if you didn't sign in for breakfast, you were in a lot of trouble. You was probably gonna get punished worse than maybe missing a rep in weight training or in sprints or out on the football field. If you didn't sign up, and Coach Perkins told us that I found out through not directly from Coach Perkins, but somebody who worked with him told us why he wanted us to go to breakfast. He said, if you get up out of the bed to go to breakfast, then that means you're more likely to go to class. So if you got up in the morning and you had to walk down them steps, because the dining hall was on the first floor, so we had to walk down those steps. More than likely, once you got up, the chances are you going to class are probably close to 100% than it is if you didn't get up. So that was his theory behind it. Of us going to breakfast. And although that was a little thing, it was small, we didn't understand it. But as you got older, you figured out, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Because who wants to get up? Once you get up, it's hard to go back to sleep. So rather than bending them up, I might as well go to class. So, and those were things that all of those coaches and the standard, it just, just kept building on, coach after coach. And Coach Saban, when he got there, he just kept it going. And I'm hoping Caleb DeBoer just keep the train, going down the track.
And when you were talking about going to class, I remember, I was talking about some of those classes I had with players. Like I had a couple of classes where all of a sudden, right at the beginning of class would be going 2 or 3 minutes. And all of a sudden you would see somebody peek their head in. They would like notice a few people and then they would leave. And he had people that would go check every room to make sure his players were in class on time. Like if you were, even if you were just late, like he better know why you were late. Like I want to say it was like Jalen or somebody had a meeting with Saban that caused him to be like 2 or 3 minutes late to class. And we were like, where's he at? Where's he at? And then he got there and he was like, hey guys, I had to meet with Saban. He knows why I was late. It's okay. And it was this whole, because the teacher was trying to look out for him. Like, hey, we know he's coming to class. And then when he walked in late, he had a meeting with Saban. And so that's why he was late. So it was a very valid reason to have been 2 or 3. I mean, he was a couple of minutes late. It's not like he missed class. And the room checkers were freaking out. It was just very funny kind of ordeal. But exactly what you're saying, right? Like they knew that at the end of the day, football is where some of these people are going to have success. And Saban sent a lot of people to the NFL and they had success. But as many of those people that had success in the NFL, a larger percentage of them were going to go on to life and do other things that were not football. Mm-hmm. And in order to be successful, those things that he was preaching on the football field, they could apply to their everyday life. And that was going to make them successful, teachers of young people is how he used to always call it, him and Miss Terry.
That's right. And they did a great job of doing it and knowing that football and time schedule put structure in place, put discipline in place. And, and that Saban said, be where your feet are, you be where you're supposed to be, you do what you're supposed to do, and you do the little things. And Coach Bryant just said, show up and get a little bit better, just a little bit better than he did yesterday, a little bit better than he did, last week. Just get a little bit better every day. So just those little things. Progression doesn't have to be a big giant step. Progression can be just taking a little bit of an inch and moving forward. As long as you kind of move forward, and both those guys push those things.
Yeah, and I think that when you're, you also have to, when you look at Nick Saban and you see the success, it's also when you see his coaching tree and the people that tried to implement the same things he was doing, right? Like there's a reason why they were doing that, right? There's a reason why Kirby's program is built very similarly to how Saban had his built. It's because I think people realize that to be successful, right, it wasn't a surprise that Coach Brian and Coach Saban had similar philosophies, because that was the philosophy it took to be successful at the highest level, right? If you want to just win a couple of games, you may be able to do that however you want. But if you want to achieve the most, then you have to, A, have good players, but B, have a foundation in place that allows those players to be successful long term.
And I think the players bought into it. The players bought into what Coach Bryant was trying to do, and the players bought into what Coach Saban was trying to do. And I can remember Coach Bryant said, and he spread it out. I think it may have been his first or second year at Alabama. He said, in 4 years you'll be national champions. You don't expect anything less. Because there's a process by which you kind of build and you go work a progression. And Saban used to call it the process. Marlon being a five-star DB, he got to Alabama and he redshirted. And he trusted the process. He wasn't ready. And he go back and look at it now and saying redshirted probably was one of the better things that happened to him, because he trusts that the process was, taking those one step and not trying to take a giant step to where you have to go back and then fill in for the things that you missed or you didn't understand. And now it's very difficult to regain confidence, after you've already been toasted and burnt a few times in the secondary, or you don't have your feet right, or you don't know the coverage and you bust a play or something like that. So, Saban believed in that process. The players believed in it. And, I think those are the things that those coaches do in terms of being more disciplined, with self-determination, being more patient, with eagerness to be able to trust the process. And then after that, you started building. Because, Saban, what happened Saban's first year. And his second year, I don't think he won the national championship to his, third year, his first one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it took him a little time. It took him a little time to build a foundation, get the beliefs. You kind of got to weave through the crowd. You kind of have to add, subtract. You kind of have to build your guys. You have to let some guys go, and then once you build that core base and that foundation, then you can kind of start moving and building into the direction of having multiple national championships and success. And I think that's what he did with those players that he believed in him.
Yeah. So as we're getting here near the end, I wanted to ask if there was one thing that people take away, for anybody that has not seen it, the movie that we are talking about, Nothing But a Winner, it premieres on July the 31st. Because of the popularity, it actually looks like it might be coming out a couple of days. So links for tickets to that movie are going to be down in the show notes. Additionally, the video, the preview of it, if you have not seen it, is also going to be in the show notes. So anybody that's curious, throw any comments, questions down at the bottom. But just wanted to see, what is like one takeaway you want people to kind of take away from the movie? Obviously, we want them to go see it, but like, is there something that's kind of the big, like almost aha thing that you think that people may get from this, whether they're an Alabama football fan or not?
Well, I think what people are going to get from this is the trust that Coach Bryant players had in him during those times of the middle of desegregation when he integrated the team. And Wilbert Jackson, George Pugh, and those guys, Wilbert Jackson, let's use him for instance. He was the first African-American player to come. And he states how he was excited at first, but as the day got closer, he got a little nervous and got a little hesitant and a little bit concerned. But Coach Bryant was able to ease his concern by telling him, if you have any problems, any concerns, come talk to me. So you hear those stories about how those players trust and believed and felt like Coach Bryant had their back. That was one of the most touching points of the documentary to me. As George Pugh says, he had our back. He had our back. And nobody knew how things would turn out. Obviously, Wilbert Jackson didn't know that. But Wilbert Jackson could very well be one of the greatest backs, if not the greatest backs in Alabama history. He came in at a time where he was the first. He was pretty darn good running back. And he proved to everybody that African Americans blacks do have an opportunity and can compete on the big stage. And he opened the door for all of us. That was one of the defining moments of the film to me.
And I think when you think about some of these things, I think you kind of go where, when you get to Saban, right? Like, I'm not going to, obviously people see color, right? Like Saban was the coach during, the marches and during 2020 and during some instrumental times as well, right? There are a lot of things that happened during the George Floyd and everything that happened. But like, when players know that, yes, I'm going to discipline you on the football field, but like when it comes to real life, I have your back, right? Like I may discipline you, oh, you missed this snap or that, but like this is real talk, right? This is real people stuff. Like I'm going to be the human that you need me to be. Like now's the time to set aside our football and let's set aside our differences. If we had them on the football field, let's come together and be human beings. And I think that's what you're sounding like Coach Bryant did for his players. Like, hey, whatever you need, you just come talk to me. I got it.
You got it. And it was during some difficult times. And Saban did the same thing. You think about the tornado that came through, how all the players were affected, how the entire Tuscaloosa community was affected. Talk to George Floyd, you mentioned that. And Saban opened up and allowed the players to kind of, express themselves and to show love and to show care for them that, this is not the way it's going to be here, and to help them navigate through that time. And it was two different eras. Saban, you got to realize Jalen Hurts was the first African-American quarterback to start as a freshman at the University of Alabama. That had never happened before. Not saying that it couldn't have happened earlier, but Jalen was just that type of guy, and Saban had that trust and belief in him that he could do it. So, that's what makes the movie so special. I think it's two different eras. Saban done it us in different difficult situation, and so did Coach Brian, and Gene Stallings did it in the movie. It is a much-watch show, and I would encourage everybody. You mentioned July the 31st. Yeah, it opens July 31st, and because of the demand, they've extended it, 3 extra days. So it'll be aired on August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And so at a local AMC theater near you, you can go out and catch the movie.
So want to wrap up here. I want to give you your time. I know we just talked about the movie, and as I said, if you want to buy tickets to that movie, I will have the link down in the bottom where you can buy tickets. It'll have the showings and everything, whatever theater near you want to get tickets for. But want to give you a bit of time to tell the people where they can find you, whatever you got going on. This time is yours.
Well, I appreciate that, Owens. I'm pretty simple. I'm laid back. I'm in my office right now here at Bryant Bank. And that's where most people walk in and find me at. I'm located in the Hoover office off of 150 Highway, and I've been here now for going on 15 years. So I'm actually a Bryant banker. So come by and see us. We have unbeatable service and legendary results, and we're a community bank, and we're a state bank. We're only located in the state of Alabama, and we believe in taking care of the community and the citizens of Alabama. And we want to be your banker. So come by and see me. You can find me anywhere on the phone. Pick up the phone, and you know what? I'm not hard to reach. People got cell phones now. You ain't got to do nothing but just look it up and come by and see me, call me, or whatever, and we'll be happy to help you any kind of way.
That sounds great. I want to thank you so much for your time today, Bobby. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about the show, to talk to me about some of your time at Alabama and some of the things that, people need to know about this movie. As I mentioned, all the links for anybody that are curious, they are down in the bottom. Thank you so much for your time, and we will catch you in the next episode. Peace.
Thanks so much.